And first up, we've got Glean, and Lee Chambers is here to do a session from Glean. Lee, I'm going to start the timer in a second. Are you all set to go?
Yeah, well, I've just started sharing my screen. If you can confirm you can see
We,
that, then we're good to go.
we see you and we hear you. Thank
Perfect.
you. There's the timer. It's all yours, Lee. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the introduction, David. So my name is Lee, and I'm here to tell you all about Glean. I'm not sure whether you've seen Glean before. I'm sure some of you have, but I want to showcase how it works. If you've never had challenges with note taking before, then you're probably in the minority because a lot of people find note taking difficult, and that's what Glean is there to help with. It's primarily used by students in a classroom-based environment. You can use it when you're in person, which is the primary use case, but it also works when you're online as well. So if you're ever in an environment where you need to take notes, but you find it hard, this is what it's designed to help you with. So I'm going to show you how it works. So let's imagine we were all about to attend class and we want to take notes from it. So we're going to go in and open up a event. I'm going to demonstrate this on my laptop, but be aware that you can also do this on a mobile device as well. So it doesn't matter what you're using, you're going to be able to use this. Now, the first thing that Glean allows you to do is to capture all of the information. Primarily, that's going to be someone talking to you, like I am now. But often, of course, in classroom-based environments, the teacher, the professor might also be using visuals as well in presentation slides. I'm sure some people in their demos today might be using slides. So Glean allows you to capture all of that. You don't have to use slides, but in this demo, I'm going to show you how that works. So what I've got here already in my notes is a set of slides I've imported. We'll come back to show you how we can use them in a minute or two. Because the main thing we're going to do is capture what's been said, and we do that by recording. And if you're in person with the person doing the speaking, you record with your microphone. As soon as you start recording, Glean then starts to capture absolutely everything that's said, and it visualizes everything that's being captured as well. So those gray bars on the right-hand side of the screen is just a visual representation of my voice right now. Think of this as a bit of an audio timeline. Recording's useful. The reason recording is useful is because it gives you a safety net. You know that if you miss something or you misunderstand something, you can then go back and view it later on. But although you can just record with Glean, it's not really what we advise because doing some kind of note taking live in the moment is beneficial, if only because it keeps you more attentive, you're listening out for key information, etc. But also because if you just recorded me talking for an hour, then all you'd be left with is a big long audio file to filter through afterwards. And most people are not going to want to do that. So what Glean allows you to do is to take notes alongside the information you're capturing. And there's lots of different ways to do this. I'm not going to show you them all. I'm going to show you a few of them. So first of all, text is probably the most common way of note taking. So if you were listening right now and you thought, oh, that's an important point, or that's something I don't understand, anytime you think, oh, I might want to go back to that later, you can add a note. And you can just start typing. I don't need to click into any boxes or anything like that. Just start typing and then hit enter to add that note. Now, every time you add a note like this, it ends up on your notes feed like this, and you can see that it is time-stamped and linked to the audio that you're recording. So what this is allowing you to do, or what it's encouraging you to do, is to do a bit of note-taking, listening out for those key points, but not have to worry about writing all of the detail, because the detail's in the audio you're capturing. So really what you're doing is bookmarking what you're listening to. And it can be as simple as this. You don't have to use any other functions of Glean. Some people will literally just use it like this, bullet points that are linked to their audio. But there's other ways of doing it as well. A lot of our users don't want to have to type anything. So you can utilize these labels to allow you to do the same thing, but not worrying about writing any text. So for example, if you hear something you think that's important, you might click on the important label. Does the same thing, adds it as a note, timestamps it, links it to the audio. There are a few other clever tools to be aware of as well. Some of the feedback we got from users is that they wanted a more freehand way of capturing notes. So now we have a scribble function in here. Scribble does what it says on the tin in that it allows you to draw on the screen and capture, well, scribbles. I would say that that feature is probably better used on a mobile device, quite simply because it's easier to scribble on a touch screen than it is using your mouse on a laptop. But you can use it on either one. And it just gives you a bit more flexibility of how you want to capture your notes. Moving over to the slides. Like I said, you don't have to use slides, but if you are using slides alongside your audio, it's handy because you can integrate those slides with what you're listening to. So it means that what's being shown on screen and what you're hearing are synced with each other. So the idea is that when the presenter, the speaker, whoever it is, goes to the next slide in their presentation, you can post that slide into your notes. It will show you it and it will add it as a little heading. And as you can see here, it moves the audio underneath that slide. And some people will just use that function. But it's a useful function because it means that you immediately break up that big long audio file into more manageable sections. And we've got a really cool update actually that a lot of people aren't aware of because it only came out last week. The most frequently requested feature with Glean has been the ability to draw on top of slides. So we've now added that. So if you have a little look across here, maybe there's some info on here that you want to highlight. You've now got these tools up here that allow you to do it. I'm not going to run through all of these, but some of the common ones that will be used in here are probably going to be a text highlighting tool. So if there's some text on a slide you've been given, you want to draw attention to, you can do. You can also do your own text on here, so you can add free text on top of slides. And there's various different shapes you can use as well to help you draw attention to things. And we know that this is going to be an invaluable tool because people have been asking us for this for a long time. And it now means that you can annotate the visuals as well as you can annotate the audible. So I think this really makes it a lot more comprehensive, and I'm really excited for that getting used. It literally only came out a week or two ago, so probably haven't seen it yet. And that's all you really need to know about using this live in the moment. There's nothing complicated about it. One of the things I always advise you do as soon as you've stopped recording is to transcribe that audio, and you can transcribe in a multitude of languages. It takes a couple of minutes to transcribe. So just while it's doing that, I want to point out another new function we've got as well. It came out a few months ago. And this is one that's going to make it easier when you're working online. So let's just picture a scenario. And sorry, David, I'm going to use this, but hopefully you won't mind. Let's say you're going and watching back through one of the ATIA demo days from the other day that you missed. And you want to watch this video and take notes using Glean. Well, previously, this was a little bit fiddly, especially if you had one screen, because you had to have different windows open and resize them, and it was just a little bit fiddly. But now we've got a browser extension you can use for this. So if you've got a Glean account, install the browser extension. Then if you're watching a video or you're on a Zoom call or a Teams call or whatever it is, you can now launch Glean in a little sidebar. And it's basically going to launch Glean, the side of your screen, and then you can start a new event and record directly from what you're watching and take notes in exactly the same way. So which makes it much, much easier when you're studying online. So have a little play with that if you haven't already seen it. I use that all the time because pretty much everything that I do is remote these days. So I utilize that a lot. Anyway, back to our recording. Let me close that down. What I want to show you now is what you do afterwards, because we now need to go back and flesh out our notes. And there's a few different ways of doing this. First of all, you can choose whether you stay in the audio view. Not everyone wants to read the transcript, or you can toggle into the transcript view. It is entirely up to you. And then you go and play back your audio. You're probably not going to want to play it back from the start, though. Most people just want to go back to those key moments. So a couple of things you can do to help with this. First of all of the annotations you made live are linked to the audio. So if you want to go navigate to one of the notes that you made, it would be as simple as hovering over it and then clicking play. So I'll click play here for a second. You'll hear my voice again, and you'll see it follow along with the transcript. That's something I don't understand. Anytime you think, oh, I might want to go back to that later, you can add a note. And you can just start typing. I don't need to click into any boxes or anything like that. Yeah, so it takes you right back to that moment. And then, of course, because you're doing this in your own time afterwards, you can then, at your own pace, go in here and then add more notes and as much or as little detail as you want. Very simple to do. And we also now have a range of text formatting functions in here, so you can personalize those notes a little bit better as well. But that relies on you actually adding notes live. And sometimes that's not going to be the case. So there's a couple of other ways of you finding what you want and you need from here. And one of those is using the transcript, because I personally don't really read through the transcript. I find it distracting. I just like to listen. But the reason I always advise people transcribe is because it makes your audio searchable. So let's say, for example, you were going back through here and you wanted to find where I was talking about the scribble function. Well, you didn't make a note about it, but you can find that by bringing your search function up and then just looking for it. And that's going to highlight any instance of that in your transcript. Of course, the more specific you can be with a search term, the more it's going to narrow it down. But that's a great way, again, of finding what you need in the information you've captured, even if you didn't make a note about it live in the moment. But there is a third way that I want to show you. Again, a fairly new function in here, and that is an outline feature. Because what the outline tool does is to help make sense of big, long transcripts. What it does is analyze that transcript and then break it down into chapters. Now, I was only talking for a couple of minutes, so there's obviously not many chapters in here. But what this is going to allow you to do is to get a quick overview about what was discussed, but it's really a navigation tool. It's helping you direct you to the stuff you care about. And it works very much like chapters does in a book. You know, if you open up a book, you don't want to read the whole thing. You look at the contents page, find out where the information is you care about, and you'll go to that page. That's what this is allowing you to do. It's not trying to do the note taking for you. The onus is still on you to do that, and that's a good thing. When you go through and you're actively taking notes, putting things in your own words, that's when you actually learn this stuff. But we just want to assist you finding the stuff you care about a little bit easier. And the last point before I finish is that we also have a really cool quizzing tool in here as well. Because one of the best things you can do a good study strategy is retrieval practice. So what you can do is go into your recording and you can generate a multiple choice quiz on the content you've captured. Now, again, this was my 5-minute demo, so there's not a lot of information to go on here. But you can see that it starts asking you questions. And again, this is a great way of you identifying gaps in your knowledge and seeing what you've remembered from that class, which again is a really useful study strategy. And that is Glean in a nutshell. Some new features there, hopefully, for those of you who are familiar with this. But hopefully, if you've never seen it, you get a good understanding of what this is there for and how it works. I would encourage you to give it a go. I will put a link into the chat in a few seconds where you can request one of our demo accounts, because we encourage people just to try this out. And that's a complimentary account as well. And have a play with it and ask me if you've got any questions about it afterwards. And that's me done, David.
Lee, thank you.